For perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at instory@gmail.com and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon and there is a option on. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
Rubbish. That's British for garbage.
My favorite is a community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/VinandSory. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sory and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 here and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch, indeed. A child shall lead them.
Buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener.
I didn't know if you'd be able to hear me over all
Mr.
of that.
Biden, we do not have any job openings.
No.
You did a job well done. Good for you. Now enter into your reward.
I knew it. I knew it was coming.
You are now you're free, man. You don't have to work anymore. You left your mark. So shout out to President Biden. All right, guys, here we go. It's time to manifest our destiny.
So we doing these?
What do you mean? Are we doing them?
We're at that question.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
I mean, if the guy's not here.
All right.
What I'm saying, like, I don't know what the rush is for doing his first if he's not here.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we were calibrated. All right. This is the secret Santarchy.
This is Anarchy 99. They're
no,
the
right
secret
here.
Santarchy. Yeah, it's
Pick
instead
for
of secret Santa, it's secret Anarchy. It's Anarchy 99 secret
version
Santa,
of Secret Santa. Okay. So, this is the stream intro. It's that time of year again. This is the third time the anarchists got together and organized a special Secret Santa event. For some context, I stole the idea from Martero, where each year he runs a Secret Santa type poll where you draw a name, and then you go through that person's posts in the village forums or use any other knowledge of your gifties' taste to pick out songs to submit. For the EU, they run one poll with just one winner. Funny enough, a pick from me won this year. Since we progress a little slower on reaction picks, we have had enough extra picks to guarantee a single song for every participant this year. The pick for SGS was made by the OG A99 leader, the big homie Silver Kyrie.
Silver Kyrie? Let me find out.
She picked out the track Guest House by the sludgy noise rock band Daughters.
All right, here we go. Guest House is the name of the song. Daughters is the name of the band.
Didn't they do Mother?
Who?
The band Daughters. Did they do the song Mother?
I don't know.
Thought we reacted to it.
Ask one of those people. I don't know.
Is it? Let me know.
I don't know. Was that on the cello board? What's the cello board at?
It's right here. What do you need?
Just the
You can go right here, and it's gonna be the first one.
Okay.
Right there. Okay.
Confessions of a Traitor. Okay. The name of this song is what is it? Punishing Myself.
No. That was that's the one that we're gonna do last.
Okay. So the next
see
one
why
is
I can't wait to you see why I can't wait to review that one?
The next one is what now? Daughters?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the name of the band. Yep.
With the subtitle thingamajiggy.
Yeah.
All right, good. Daughters.
I'll take the timestamp too.
Daughters is the name of the band.
Apologies, you guys. We are having a lot of colds going around over here. So the sniffles, the sneezing, the wads. You know how it goes. Right?
What do you mean?
Well, you know, when folks are sick, what happens? How people feel. Why we need tissues.
Oh. Why are we apologizing for that?
Well, because I remember I went to a Bible study one time, and I had been blowing my nose like crazy, but it didn't. I mean, you still had the sniffles. And literally, the guy leading the study stopped the study to say, "Can you just go blow your nose?"
Who did that? That wasn't me, was it?
What makes you think it was you?
Was it you? Was it really?
It was you.
You were probably being annoying or something. All right, guys, here we go. Daughters by the band. Guest House is the name of the band?
No, Guest House is the name of the song. The name of the band is Daughters.
Gotcha. And you got the lyrics, right?
Yeah, this is from Silver Kyrie.
All right, Silver Kyrie. We
And
got an album review coming up for her pretty soon.
And she picked it for who? Oh. Was this for Fally? Because actually, I don't even know who was writing.
All right, guys, here we go. Daughters.
You forgot to sign it. Oh, negative vibes.
No.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god.
SGS said that song is what a panic attack feels like. Yeah, that constant like that's pretty freaking
A little
disturbing. Unsettling. It's disturbing.
Yeah.
And I don't know why sounds like that are disturbing, but they just are. I don't know like what the evolutionary or the selection pressure benefit is to being freaked out by that sound, but for some reason that sound is pretty freaking disconcerting.
Yeah, doesn't make us feel peaceful.
It's disconcerting, he says. The incorrigible wheel tilts.
Yeah, this song reminded me of, the Big Bad Wolf. Look, I literally have the Big Bad Wolf up here.
Yeah, but I didn't say anything about a wolf.
No, but Russell, I think, did. Was it Russell? Three Little Pigs song. Green Jelly.
Oh. Yeah, Three Little Pigs was actually one of the first rock songs that I ever memorized. Really? But I didn't memorize it because it was a rock song. I memorized it because it was telling the story from the
yeah.
Well, it was the claymation thing was pretty cool.
You could feel bad for the. Did you feel bad for the wolf?
I always felt bad for the bad guys.
I wonder why that is.
Because I was the middle child. I was a bad kid, so I always associated with the bad guy characters. I never once associated with the good guy characters.
I'm having a lot of trouble over here, babe.
Why?
Because every time I try to fix my coffee, I keep dumping more.
Right.
It's actually tea, but
which is one of the reasons that I created that decree.
I know.
The incorrigible wheel tilts at a grotesque angle. The delay is upon me. Who locked the door? Who bent the key?
Yeah, that was creepy.
I've been knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking, pounding and knocking and knocking. Let me in. I need a place to bury the soulless, charming, will-to-hell creature upon me. Who boarded the windows? Who closed the screens? I've been knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking. Let me in. I've come from the distance where you can't see. It is there, believe me. Now let me in. Who put a padlock on the cellar door? Let me in. I've been knocking. Let me in. Who bricked off the chimney? I can't hear you speak. I've been knocking and knocking and knocking. Let me in. So he couldn't get out of the chimney. What was the thing with the Three Little Pigs at the end? He somehow ended up...
I thought he went down the chimney.
He went down the chimney and he ended up in the boiling pot, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so maybe... Okay, so...
Here's a twist. What if it's a relationship song?
What?
Yeah. What if it's a relationship song and the person that is begging to be let back in... The other person has closed them off.
That's my coffee. Okay.
And so they're begging to get back in.
Oh, okay.
Here you go.
Okay, so then...
But the chimney's boarded, everything is closed off.
The incorrigible wheel, they're talking about what, the wheel of time?
Yeah. It tilts at a grotesque angle.
The delay is upon me. Who locked the door? Who bent the key? So, yeah, so who made it so that I can't get back into this situation?
Did you ever bend a key in your life?
I must have. But, like, that's, you were trying to get in and you jiggle the thing too hard and the key bends and then it's completely useless or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So, all
right, so what was your take? I mean, I had the two takes. One was, it sounds like the wolf, trying to come in on the pigs. And I thought it also sounded like a very... Well, I mean, I agree with everybody. It did sort of have that, like, you're having a meltdown sound to it. Like, it sounded like somebody who was losing their mind,
Well, yeah, it's a panic attack type song for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a relationship song.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I'm just saying, here's another interesting angle. No,
it's interesting. I need a place to bury the soulless, charming, winter hell creature upon me.
Yeah.
What is he talking about there? Is he talking about himself?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I have come from the distance where you can't see. It is there, believe me. Now let me in. Go ahead. What were you saying?
This could be somebody returning to something from their past also. Who locked the door? Who bent the key? When it was actually themselves when they left that place, but now they're returning?
Yeah, it seems to me like some point of no return has been hit or crossed, and it just looks like the person is not accepting it. You know what I'm saying? Who put a padlock on the cellar door? Let me in. I've been knocking. Who bricked off the chimney? Let me in. So it's like he previously had access and he doesn't anymore. And he's trying to figure out, well, he's not trying to figure out why he's been locked out. It's just really interesting.
Yeah.
He's not making any like, how come, all he's saying is, who did this?
Who did it?
Who's the one that's blocking me off? And then it's a demand, let me in. There's no like, why did this happen? I'm not dangerous, type of thing. He doesn't really seem to be concerned about the person or people locking him out. He just seems to be concerned about who actually locked him out.
And the other thing is he
doesn't really care about the why. He just wants to get in.
To bury the soulless charming, whatever that means.
Yeah, I need a place to bury the soulless, charming winter hell creature upon me. So maybe it is a relationship song, and he's saying he wants to hurt this person. He's calling the person a soulless winter hell creature. And he says, I want a place to bury this winter soulless creature, whatever the thing is. And the people or the person is saying, well, that's fine, but you can't bury him here. And he's like, but this is where I want to do it. See what I'm saying? So it's like, I need a place to bury the soulless, charming winter hell creature upon me. That is really interesting. Like some people, like especially if they have mental health issues, especially if they have diagnosed mental health issues, they become like the center of everything, and everything becomes about them so much that it's almost hard for them to even conceive of the fact that there are people that have other issues and other priorities that are not them, and it's very, very hard for them to understand that. So everything about, especially if like I knew a person was an only child at one point, and so like you could tell in discussions that they truly didn't have a concept that other people had like a stake in the situation. It was just like, whew, like completely over her head, So it's like, there are people like that. Like they don't, it's not that they don't understand. It doesn't even cross their mind. Something isn't going the way they want it to, or some relationship isn't going the way they want it to. It doesn't even cross their mind that maybe they're the reason that that's the situation. Like, it's just, let me in. Who did this? Who did that? Who? There are no why questions. It's just who and a demand. And so I think like the song itself kind of explains why the door is locked. And that can be anything. It could be your relationship with the government. It could be your relationship with yourself, your relationship with God, your relationship with an abusive boyfriend. To me, it looks to me like some sort of boundary has been crossed. I say this all the time, like, life is not a TV show. Especially the TV shows I grew up watching. The TV shows I grew up watching, person has a problem, there's a problem. Maybe it's a character issue. Maybe it's a bad situation that happened. And then, you have a little laugh about it, and then the person gets confronted, and then the sad music comes on, and then the person said, yeah, I've been a real selfish bastard. How could I do that? And the other people say, it's okay, we forgive you. Just stop being a selfish bastard. And then the movie goes on, everything goes good. It's like, there's some situations where that's not the case. Actually, many situations where that's not the case. By the time we get to the end of the song, this guy doesn't look like he understands, or girl, doesn't look like he or she understands what the reason is that they can't get into this. They no longer have access to this place. The assumption just seems to be, I've been locked out of this place, but I don't deserve to be, and people need to let me in, whatever the issue is. So that's what it looks like to me.
The inside the house could be when the person just gets lost in their insanity, and so they've been fighting to stay outside of that place within themselves, and they're actually fighting to get back in now, to bury the soulless charming. In other words, to bury themselves inside of that place, to just slip away, not as in die, but to slip away to insanity.
Right. Yeah, like literally lose your mind in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting song. It's actually okay, not something that I would add to my playlist because I don't find it necessarily positive sounding. Sounds like a bit of a breakdown. But at the same time, it was really like I thought it was well performed in that the person really like, I felt like that they were really putting something out there for us. So I'm going to go with an 8.8. 8.8.
I feel like this is one of those songs that are versatile, that you can apply to so many different things.
Uh-huh.
I have a weird relationship with songs like this because, like, I have to be in a certain kind of mood, but if I am in a certain kind of mood, like, I could listen to this song for about probably 30 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. If I'm in a certain kind of mood. Because sometimes, like, repetitive, it's weird, and I still don't understand the math behind it, but, like, there's sometimes that if I hear something repetitive, like, my brain shuts down, like, immediately, like, oh my god, you just repeated this phrase. But, like, there are other times when a repetitive thing kind of becomes a mantra, and it means different things, even though you're saying the same word. Mm-hmm. And this is how that song hit. This is how this song hits me. So, like, there would be one day where this song would be like a 6.4, and then, well, that would be the norm. And then there are other times when the songs would be like a 9.3. That would be like a once a month type of thing, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. So, based on that, I'm going to go ahead and give this one an 8.7. 8.
So we got pretty close to the same score. All right, you guys, we have more to come. More Santa presents for everybody that participated. So we're going to put up a commercial.
We're going to put up a commercial. Then we shall return with more music coming your way. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone, but not really gone.
I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sorry says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at itsorry@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
Rubbish. That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in a Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/VinandSorry. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sorry and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 here and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch, indeed. A child shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. We have just begun an alliance stream. If you check us out on Patreon, you will see that we're going to be working every single day this week with things that you have seen and things you have not seen as well.
Because you know what it is. Every day we be hustling.
Yeah, that's what we got for, was that Friendship Day?
Yep.
Y'all don't know about Friendship Day.
No.
What you know about that?
Yeah.
What you know about that? What you know about that? I know all about that. Don't you know I got a key with the fee when I chirp, shorty chirp back, loaded knapsack while holding all the work at. What you know about that? All right, let's go.
Okay. Excuse me, this is the pick for Archero.
Ottone Pesante Tentacles is the name of the song. Ottone Pesante. I don't know if that's a proper way to say it, Archero, but you smart European people with your words I've never seen before. Our big homie and TK leader, Neil, drew Archero's name this year. What's TK? True Cult.
True Cult.
And he picked out a really cool one. This track comes from a doom black metal band from Italy that has no guitars, only horns. The band is called Ottone Pesante, and Neil picked out the track Tentacles, which features guest vocals from Sarah Blanchin of the Italian doom jazz band Messa, whom we've covered a couple of times before. Yes, dear listener, you thought that metal and black metal and all those things were monolithic, you know, guitar, bass, drums, singer. You didn't know that there were other things like what we just discovered, so let's check it out.
All right, let's see, guys.
Ottone,
what do we have here? Let's see what this
Ottone
present is.
Let's check it out. This
Tentacles,
is a metal band,
let's go.
literally. He says literally with the band thing, I'm assuming. We are not with a guitarist. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Probably bad. Let's check it out, guys. Now! That was intro. What was that? Pesante something?
Here you go.
Ottone Pesante. Something, that prefix means like a disease or something, right? Pestilence or something like that. This is
maybe.
true metal. I am digging it. Okay.
Yeah, that was interesting.
It definitely had like a Lord of the Rings type feel.
Yeah, like when it started out and it was like just the horns. I actually thought it was going to be an instrumental, but then I remembered that they said that Sarah was
There were some
participating. Yeah.
Geist. Geist. There was
What
some
is
Geist.
going on?
There was some Geist vocals in that bitch. Okay, so I understand the idea, like, yo, we don't really need to have guitars and drums like the traditional metal thingamajiggy, because we've got these horns and these arrangements that kind of work. So it was like bam, bam, dun, dun, dun. Like, obviously if you're a guitarist you could transpose that sound. I do think though it's really challenging. Just me conceptually, I don't understand how people can do that. You sit down and say, let's make a metal song that'll still be heavy, but not use an inch of guitar. That's crazy to me. Mm-hmm. That's crazy to me. The closest, and the other side of that is like, what's that band? I forgot the name of the band, but like there's a band and they do like covers of Metallica and like they're like cello and violin. Violin kind of still works to me as a metal instrument because it's technically still a stringed instrument. Mm-hmm. But to use like horns and things like that without the guitar, so you're losing a non-string instrument to, replicate the sound of what a guitar would make, I think is a really interesting twist. Somebody's going to say it's gimmicky, and it might be gimmicky. Apocalyptica, I think that was the name of the band. People are going to say it's gimmicky, and it might be gimmicky, but I still respect the hell out of the ability to do that. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not something that you're like, oh, we could like trade out the guitar and drums forever and do this. Like, I would be unsatisfied with music at that point.
Right.
But
you
if
mean
it's
this
like
particular song?
Like if you were like, okay, this is so great, like we don't need the traditional drums and guitar anymore after hearing this.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah.
And ever went to that, I think we would all feel like a loss was happening.
Agreed.
But I think that this, like, here and there, it works really good because it gives us some variety, and it lets us know that we don't have to be so tied to the drum and the guitar, that there are other ways of accomplishing music and making something sound heavy regardless. I mean, you were trudging through it with this song. I thought that they did really good.
Yeah, I thought it worked. But like, I'm not gonna lie, like the last 40 seconds, if they would have went go,
Oh, yeah,
and
it
then
would've been
added
cool.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know, 20 seconds of like, rah, I would have been like, oh, this is the band. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But it's really challenging to go there. Okay, so sonically, I was very intrigued by it. I don't know if they would have the ability to like hold my attention for an entire record. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping somebody requests this band again, just so I could get more of like the feel. But okay, let's go into the lyrics. What did you think was going on there?
Oh, for some reason I was like picturing like some Ursula type character in the ocean when this song was going on.
Okay.
Those tentacles, they come but I don't know what it's, those morbid necklaces. Although when it got to that part, dance all around me, devour infinity, space and time, that kind of made me think of, remember how they would wear those like bone necklaces? So the necklace itself was made up of,
Skulls.
a certain piece. Was it skulls?
Well, that's what I was thinking about. This dude's rocking around skull
They
necklaces.
do all kinds of different things, yeah. So kind of those morbid necklaces, dance all around me, kind of wasn't sure if it was a play on any of that. But what did you get?
Yeah, that was kind of the idea. I had them like it's like this conquering group of people that were coming on boats, but that they were filling up the horizon, so it kind of felt like Octopussy, because it's like they've got reach everywhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
And so these are like a bunch of conquerors coming, and so you dance all around people with their morbid necklaces because, like, hey, here's your dad's head on my necklace thingy. It says devours infinity, space, and time to no longer let me be, which is a very interesting thing to say because infinity is almost like a negation of space and time because it's endless.
Yeah.
So, like, if time is endless, then on what basis is time then? Because usually we use time to differentiate beginnings and ends.
Uh-huh.
So if time differentiates beginning and end, I'll be there in an hour. What you're saying is there's going to be 60 minutes at the beginning, and then it's going to take me 60 at the end of that full 60 minutes to be at your place. So time marks beginnings and endings. So if you have no beginning or no end, which infinity is, then you can't really say infinity is even a number or a measurement of time. And there is a sense in which infinity would be the opposite of time.
Yeah, yeah.
So when it says devour infinity, space, and time, which is another thing that's interesting because science, which of course this happened because of the whole quantum entanglement stuff. Mm-hmm. But apparently, I didn't know this, but scientists do not make an ontological or categorical difference between space and time. What they actually say is space-time.
Yeah.
So space-time, that's what they say. And so I did not know that, obviously. And so obviously when you talk about quantum entanglement, now things make sense. Like, you know, you could put this thing at 8 trillion miles away from its companion, and if it's spinning left, the companion knows 8 trillion miles away to spin right, and you're like, how can they influence each other when they're so far distance away? How can they do that at the same time? So the scientists say space-time is one thing, it's a different side of the same coin or whatever. My point is, if there is a being that could devour infinity, space, and time, then that being would be ultimate reality itself. Because infinity, space, and time are the only ways that human beings have to understand what reality is. Most of the time when we say, is X thing real? So for example, if somebody goes on a DMT trip and Joe Rogan says, are the beings that you meet on these DMT trips, are they real? What most people and other people say, no, it's all in your head. So what they're saying about real is, does this thing have extension in space-time? Does this thing have some sort of physicalized extension within space-time that we could put in a category of you started here and you ended here? So when we say we're real, that's what we're saying. So if a person has a category outside of space-time where something is real, they'll just say, well, that's all in your head. Right? So it's very interesting when you start thinking things through and applying that all over the place. So for example, like things like the laws of logic. The laws of logic do not have extension in time and space, but yet we function in this physical world as if the laws of logic did exist. And so that tells us then that we do believe that things exist outside of space-time, which opens the door for a lot of other things. But what I'm getting here is, if you have a being or a collective of people who believe that they have the power to devour infinity, space, and time, then that being itself would be what we would call God, or an ultimate power that cannot be contradicted. Ben Webb says, and we're just going to mention anything Ben says. So today, MLK Jr. Day, we had an inauguration where someone did a Nazi salute multiple times when we on the left called Republicans fascist. You should have listened. So there you go. Happy MLK Day for all the people who don't like Ben Webb. Happy 2025, Ben. I'm glad to see you around. I hope you come around more often. We continue. They rise over moribund seas when thoughts die and light cease. Turn the waves, spell the void, disappearing in the shades, cutting thoughts like razor blades. See, that goes along with what I'm saying here. If you're looking at the sea as all reality, which is very interesting because I was just listening to this thing about Krishna, and he was hanging out in a sea of milk or something like that. But anyway, You're over this moribund seas when thoughts die and lights cease. Turn the waves to spell the void, disappearing in the shades. Just looks to me like it's saying, like, it doesn't matter if you conquer all that stuff, you're going to go into the abyss just like everybody else.
Oh.
So you guys might think you guys are these, like, crazy warriors who cannot be stopped, and that's true at some level, but you're still going to end up in the same situation everybody else is going to end up in, which is nothingness. What do you got?
Well,
what do you think about that?
It's just, that was, it took a little turn there.
Why? What do you mean?
Well, I wasn't sure where like, the song was going. And then all of a sudden you just, like, took that turn and you...
Go ahead.
The nothingness aspect of it. You know what I mean? Like, dying and then there's nothingness and It's just interesting that everybody is sort of walking around without... Like, there's lots of people who have no clue. Then there's lots of people who believe that they know what happens after you die. And then there's some people that would rather pretend that we will never die. But it's just interesting, like, you know, when you're hearing these people, like, this type of music where it's... I didn't know that it had, like, that doom situation at the end until you said it, so... Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I still like the style. It was still very interesting to me. I'm gonna give this one a solid 9, actually.
Night, Steve. This one gets a 9. Mm-hmm. This one to me, I'm gonna give this one a 9.3. I'm not sure I can listen to an entire record of this, but this particular song, especially with the vocals. I'd be interested to see how I react without the vocals. But this particular song I really, really actually enjoyed a lot. So I'm going to give this one a 9.3.
9.3 for Vincent, 9 even for me. And we will be right back because we have more Santa picks for our patrons. So we'll be right back.
We shall return, dear listener. We shall return. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Down. I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the Filthy Capitalist option. As Sorry says, 125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at itsorry@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
Rubbish. That's British for garbage.
My favorite is a community option. $1 at the gate gets you in a Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/VinandSorry. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sorry and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 here and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy merch.
Buy our merch indeed, and y'all shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Especially Ben Webb. Ben Webb should buy all of our merch.
Yeah.
He loves us. He loves us he loves us as a community. He loves us.
How nice.
Yep.
The name of the song is Pain Every Day.
Web Week incoming. Web Week incoming.
Clipping is the name of the band. This is a pick for Neil. The pick for our big homie Neil, leader of the True Cult, comes from Fally. It's from the experimental hip-hop group Clipping with the track Pain Every Day.
Oh, they're a hip-hop group.
Yep.
Is the subtitles completely in Espanol? Did they give you the lyrics?
Yep.
All right. Here we go, guys. Let's check it out. Clipping. Was it Pain Every Day?
Pain every... sounds positive.
Sounds like
what a Christmas gift to give.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is our community, ladies and gentlemen. Pain every day.
What Muhammad said to the Meccans. He was going around. He said, "I will bring you slaughter." Not a very nice thing to say, but you have to admit it's probably one of the most gangster pronouncements a minority has ever said.
That's it.
In the face of his enemies. I will bring you slaughter.
Oh my gosh. My God.
Shout out to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Hey, y'all shouldn't have been so mean to him though. You shouldn't have been so mean to him. You shouldn't have been so mean to him. All right, guys, here we go. We bring you slaughter. We should name a song that. I bring you slaughter.
Yeah.
All right, guys, here we go. Clipping Pain Every Day.
Every day.
Every day.
Death wasn't really the worst part. Time spent floating above is body done. That's when the hurts start. They call it passing. That's not it. They lying. Fuck them altars and headstones. Who they think all them flowers for? Can't smell nothing. You just bones. Cry a little less every hour. So that must be real nice. Crossing the earth marks. And when everything began. Death scars looking like birthmarks. Take for granted they freestand, and y'all should grab one right by the dream space. Make one scream until she pray. Make one run until he dead. Make one break until they leave. The body hurts, see, the body gone. So who body make up for all the wrongs done to bodies? They keep singing they songs while your body rock. Well, fuck it, come on, they gotta pay. Chase the dreamer, fuck it up. Shake the dreamer, wake it up. And that will make the dreamer hate the dreamer. Cut it up, break the dreamer, wake the demon. Run it up, then you can get into the head where they try to make sense of senses. Start they six, let them know the dead levitating just ahead and they best not slip. Just because you bled out doesn't mean you ever left, and that's that shit. They be running scared and they're telling all their secrets. Don't that sound like snitch behavior? Zip it up, kiss the fear and simply savor. Lick it up, that tastes like wishes made by twisted prayers. Rip it up, split the vision, lynch the savior. Get the guts, then you will grab one right by the dream space. Make one scream until she pray. Make one run until he dead. Make one break until they leave. The body hurts, see, the body gone. So who body make up for all the wrongs done to bodies? They keep singing they songs while your body rock. Well, fuck it, come on, they gotta pay. All the living sweat in the afterlife, but ain't nothing afterlife but the pain from the way you died and something reminiscent of hunger. But if you had a stomach, only satiated by making somebody run. See that? To the edge of the screen in the video. Hear that? Hissing way in the back of the track. Be that. You could live in the glitch of the digital. They fear that. They should fear that. They gon' fear that. You are here forever. Here forever. Fuck it up. Miss the moment and it's never gonna come. You stuck, so make the most. You make the omens. Leave the gun. Watch the mortals blow their brains out. That was fun. That's why you grab one right by the dream space. Make one scream until she pray. Make one run until he dead. Make one break until they leave. The body hurts, see, the body gone. So who body make up for all the wrongs done to bodies? They keep singing they songs while your body rock. Well, fuck it, come on, they gotta pay.
That was clipping. Experimental hip hop. Yeah, that was a very, very, very experimental. I haven't heard a band like this before. Okay. What did you think the lyrics were about?
I don't know, actually.
Or what's you reacted to a couple of the lyrics?
Yeah, let me look back at them. Death wasn't really the worst part. Time spent floating above. The body done when the hurts start. They call it passing. That's not it. They lying. F them altars and headstones. Who they think their flowers are for. Can't smell nothing. You're just bones. They cry a little less every hour. So that must be real nice. Crossing the earth marks. The end with when everything began. Death scars looking like birthmarks. Take for granted. They freely stand in you. Okay, so the first part, right, kind of made me think of, exactly what he's saying. He's talking about death, and he's talking about, like, the altars, the headstones, the flowers, like, all of those things that we do. Those things are for the living. They're not for the dead, because the dead cannot experience those things. So it makes the living feel better. Grab one right by the dream space. See, I didn't know what was going on there. Dream space. And then make one scream until she prays. That just sounded crazy. Make one run until he dead. Make one break until they leave the body.
It says, that's not where it starts, but it says get into the head when they try to make sense of us. When they try to make sense of senses, start they sixth. As in the sixth sense. Let them know the dead levitating just ahead and they best not slip. Just because you bled out doesn't mean you never left, and that's that shit. They've been running scared and they're telling all their secrets. Don't that sound a little like snitch behavior? So, this guy's all over the place. But, it seems like he's got some, skepticism relative to the afterlife. That was one of the big themes that I saw in the thing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What made you say that about the skepticism about the afterlife?
Well, just because he... Was it over here? Hold on. Well, it was, him talking about the, the beginning part with the flowers and stuff like that. And it just didn't sound like, okay, you can live in the glitch of it. No, I don't know.
So he says, grab one right by the dream space, which I'm assuming would be the head. Make one scream until she prays. Make one run until he dead. Make one break until they leave the body. Hurts see the body gone, so who body makes up for all the wrongs done to bodies.
Yeah.
They keep singing. Okay, so like, who's gonna have to pay for the deaths of these other people?
Yeah.
Because you're destroying people's bodies. So whose body is going to pay for the destruction of all these other people's bodies? Is what it looks like to me. Which, of course...
Who's hurting the bodies? Who's doing this?
It doesn't say. But it just looks like humanity doing stuff to humanity.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it's got that principle of like repayment then. So whose body is going to be hurt to make up for the bodies that have been hurt? Which, of course... The answer is a person who hurt the other person's body is going to get... That's how it should happen, and then that should end at zero. But, of course, we know that all that does is perpetuate a cycle of violence, which, ironically enough, considering Anarchy 99, is one of the reasons why I've always been skeptical about anarchy working as a system. Because, to me...
Yeah.
If you say there's no government... What you're saying is basically might makes right. Of course, the response to that would be to say, well, how is that different from the government? Because the government is essentially might makes right, because the government has all the weapons, the government has the prison facilities, et cetera, where they could jam you up. And so they're saying, well, you still have a might makes right sort of equation. All you're doing is you're saying that the government is the right mighty one. And I'm like, well, yes and no, because what you're really trying to avoid with government is there is a predictability about governmental violence that is not there when the government is not there. So, for example, I say, okay, walking down the street generally, people are not going to put their hands on you. Government agents generally are not going to put their hands on you, and they're not going to do violent things to you unless you do these things. And so now there's a predictability element toward the violence because we have these laws, and so if you don't have these laws, it's going to trigger this kind of reaction, etc. If you don't have a government, then you no longer have a predictability around people's violent impulses or people's impulses toward taking things. So, for example, we know that the government is reaching into our pockets, taking our money, and every year the government says, I'm going to take more than I should, I'll pay you back later, which we call tax returns, right? And so, like, that's you got some, like, far right libertarians will say taxation is theft. Like 8, 9, 10 years ago, that was a big thing. Taxation is theft, blah, 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 blah. It's like, I don't necessarily think it's theft, but let's go with that. That's the government announcing we're going to steal from you, but we'll pay you back on the other side. It's better to have a predictable thief than to have an unpredictable thief who can take your money on a Wednesday and a Tuesday and you have no way to prepare for it. So you can just keep going back and forth relative to the government. I get it. I don't think that they should have the right to have a monopoly on violence or thievery. But if you assume that people are going to be horrible, then you need a certain kind of government. And it's better to have a situation in which you can predict the larceny, you could predict the killing, you could predict, the loss of freedom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In an anarchist context, there is no way to predict any of those things, and you're just in a bad situation, and you're left at the mercy of the person in front of you, or you're left at the mercy of maybe you're just stronger than that other person. So that's what that part looked like to me. It's kind of like humanity doesn't really have the ability to measure itself yet, because and the other thing too is, like, if you want to adopt a worldview where all you are is a body, especially if you are a physicalist, in a physicalist context, they literally believe that all you are is a body. It's very interesting to see these guys talk about it, because he says makes one break until they leave the body, hurts see the body gone, so who body make up for all the wrongs done? Two bodies. So that's a very interesting way, because it sounds so depersonalized, like whose body. But in reality, like, if the physicalists are right, you're just a biological machine. Yeah. You're just a body. And there is a sense in which the myness, when a person says my body, that's not real. Like the my part isn't real. If you're just a body, right, then your personal separated ego that's separated from other people really doesn't really exist, because all you are is a mechanized body. Whether you're calling your mind or your personality or chemical reactions that are happening inside of your body, and that's what gives you your unique quirks and personality and thoughts and all the rest of it. And so, like, you really are just a walking body. It's a very interesting way to look at it, but all this other stuff where, like, you're more than just a body and things like that's religion. That's not. Yeah. That's not like cold hard biology. So I thought that was a very interesting way of looking at it as well. What is your position on taxing income? I do believe that at some level taxation is theft. I also believe I'm a collectivist. I'm not a radical individualist. And so I believe that, like, I'm responsible to contribute to a society for, like, for example, paid family leave. So at least for women. I believe I'm responsible for that, especially being as pro-life as we are. I believe that we're responsible for that, and it would be great if the government would distribute those funds accordingly. That's my position on taxes. My disposition on taxes would be let people have their money and decide how they're gonna spend it. But it appears that model is not going to work because we're all interconnected. So that's kind of my take on taxes. The only time I get really upset about taxes is when they get used. You know, when they put all the pork and all that stuff into the bills. that, you know, hey, we're gonna spend X amount of money to get this particular group, this particular thing. We're gonna hide it into the main, you know, the things that they do all the time. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, I'm having like a different thoughts on, you know, I'm not ready to talk about it yet. So yeah, I've got a lot going on that I'm thinking about, and this song is making those thoughts come around, but I'm not, you know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now keep in mind, I don't pay state tax anymore because we're now in Florida. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason for, you know, I don't worry about state tax anymore. But yeah, there's that. What did you get the song?
I'm gonna give this one a 8.7. Yeah, I'll go with an 8.7. What about you?
Yep, I agree. 8.7. 8.7. That's like right down the line for me. All right, dear listener.
All right, you guys. That was Pain Every Day. That one was from Fally for Neil.
That was Clipping, right? Clipping is the name of the band? Or yeah.
No, this was for Fally. And it was...
What's the name of the band?
The name of the band is Clipping.
Right. So Clipping is the name of the band.
Sorry, did I mix that up?
No, it's okay.
And it came from Fally, and it was for Neil. All right, you guys, we got another one coming up. The next one will be here momentarily.
Yep. Shout out to everybody. We shall return on the other side of the break. Ben, be nice to people, bruh. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Go.
I'm Vin.
I'm sorry.
If you would like to get your song reviewed,
okay, so this guy's not coming back. So
no, he said
is he in?
He's working for the next 4 or 5 hours, but he said just to do his last. That's fine.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to
What's
wait.
wrong with you?
You
You
can
just
jump right
not
in front
feeling
of
it there?
everybody. 125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and then get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes.
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at itsorry@gmail.com, and I'll
to get your band reviewed. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
Rubbish. That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village. Facebook.com/VinandSorry. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sorry and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 here and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy our merch, indeed. A child shall lead them.
To buy our merch.
Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener. Yes, dear listener.
Anarchy 99, one of
99.
our Patreon groups, comes together with their leader is Negative Vibes. They said the pick for Fally fell to me this year. I've found through the last couple of years that we have quite a bit of overlap in musical interests when it comes to exotic, boundary-pushing music. One thing that caught my eye was a track he submitted last fall from the experimental psychedelic rock metal band The Mercury Tree, titled Similar Self. A bit of a warning ahead of time, this is going to be a very complex and challenging song, if for no other reason than the music is heavily microtonal. Without getting on a really long explanation, that means notes that don't exist in the modern Western 12-tone equal temperament. Specifically, their instruments were fretted and tuned to a 17-note scale, so a lot of the melodies will sound out of tune or off key. The way it's integrated into a modern rock formula is really fascinating. I don't know. We'll be the judge. Well, this is Negative Vibes picking for Fally. That's my understanding.
Good. Shout out to Fally. Shout out to Negative Vibes. The Mercury Tree, similar self. I'm very interested in this, dear listener. You already sent the lyrics, right?
Yeah.
You're such a Don't you know that all this time all of them are pretend?
Where is it? This one? Hey.
Yeah.
Sing, 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 sing like an elf. Didn't know how to get out, maybe now this could be
You sure these are the right lyrics? You sure those are the right lyrics?
That's what they gave me. I don't.
Unknown recipient. So
Yep.
he sends a message to himself, and it came back as an unknown recipient. So he doesn't know himself, is the idea.
Yep.
The microtonal stuff was a little bit disappointing to me because it didn't like sound off to me. He's like, oh, it's going to sound off, and then you
Yeah,
gotta
I actually thought it was going to be,
I thought it was going to be kind of
really
like
troublesome.
a Decibel
There
Omega
was-
type of like, you know how like, it's like, damn, what the hell is he saying?
Yeah, there was one point where... What do you think's going on here?
Yeah, it was the,
Okay.
that was that.
Yeah, it did seem like there was one point where I was like, okay, it's getting a little bit off over there. But for the most part, I couldn't really tell, yeah.
Yeah, I was like...
I expected it to be...
But it's probably honestly because we've listened to Decibel Omega. Fally's here!
Oh my gosh, you scared
man,
me.
Fally. I hope you were here to hear the song, Fally, because the song was for you. Yeah. The Decibel Omega vibe, it made it. I was looking for something like more obviously off.
Yeah.
Than the
Yeah, I
way that it
agree.
was off, because
Yeah.
it probably is obvious, but because we've listened to so much music, I was really thinking, I was like, man, we're gonna hear some really discordant stuff, because I like how things that shouldn't make sense, I like how there's some bands that can make that work.
That's true, yeah.
I forgot what the name of the band was. It Pineapple Tree? There was some band in year one, and it was like one of the first prog bands ever, but they were more like experimental. But it was one of those things where like I thought they did a really good job. I love it when like things that are, like I said, like the math is off. It's like, this is not supposed to, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is not supposed to hit me like this, but it does. So I appreciated that. But what was going on with you when you were hearing the thing?
I couldn't understand with the lyrics. I was like looking at I'm like, it doesn't even sound like this person is even saying this. Turns out we did have the wrong lyrics, so apologies on that one. We got it now. So you're such a similar self. Don't you know that all this time, all of them all could tell, only wanted to sing, sing, sing like an elf. Didn't know how to get out. Maybe now this could be how. Oh, we peek out of the shell. It kept coming into my head just like, like somebody who was like split personalities or different types of personalities that they were contending within themselves. And like you said, at the end, it wasn't going well for them.
It's interesting lyrically, because I'm assuming like he was also going for like simulation. You're such a similar self. Don't you know all this time that all of them could tell? So I took that as like, you are trying to be another person. You're trying to be similar to other people. It's like when you're just getting socialized into, really, this happened with me in public school. Like, public school was the first time I realized, like, oh, there's a certain way people walk, talk, act, think.
Yeah.
And if you want to be accepted, you walk, talk, act, think this way. If you walk, talk, act, think this way and they know it, then you're going to be rejected. And so it was like, it became this thing. And then you eventually, because I was an immigrant, you're kind of already on the outside by default. And so it's like, you have to pay attention to how to get in if you're coming from the outside. Whereas people who are born into this culture think that the things that they have to do to get in are just natural because it's all they know.
Yeah.
It takes somebody from outside the culture to say, holy shit, you have to do that to stay cool? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And you conform or whatever, and then you hit this point where it's like, yeah, but who am I as an individual? What do I actually like? Which is why by the end of the song, he's sending a message to himself.
Yeah.
You will do what I tell you, not what you tell me. And then it says, message failed to send unknown recipient, because he doesn't know himself.
Yeah.
So because he has to make a simulation of himself to get accepted into society, when he's alone and he's like trying to talk to himself and trying to give himself
recognize
direction,
himself, yeah.
he doesn't recognize himself. And then of course you have this phrase, it's kind of schizophrenic. Message to myself. You will do what I tell you, not what you tell me. Well, then if he does what you tell him,
Yeah.
that is you telling yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
If, here's the if there is only one consciousness per person, right? So if there's only one consciousness per person, then this is a very poetic way of saying, you know, I'm a divided person. Mm-hmm. If you say there are more than one consciousness per person, and that there are separate consciousnesses with separate agendas, that then becomes a little bit more tricky. Because if you say, okay, you have, and obviously this is an actual theory, and it's probably closest to the theory that I have about, you know, human beings. But I think that we are actually multiple persons. And I think that when people talk about DID or split personality disorder, it means that the executive, because I do believe that we are a combination of consciousnesses, but there is one consciousness that has been given basically 51% control over the rest of them. Yeah. And that is what we call your area of responsibility. I'm not going to say we're going to call that you, because you are all of those consciousnesses. But when we talk about responsibility, whether you're good or bad, I think the idea is there's one of your consciousnesses that is the adult in the room. I call it the executive. But there's one consciousness that's the adult in the room and is expected to have all the other ones lined up in a way that is that comports with a smooth society. So, for example, the inner child. Well, your inner child wants love, affection, but your inner child also doesn't have very good impulse control. So, if you're 3 and you can't help but take the candy, people are generally going to be very forgiving of that. But if you're 30 and you still can't help but take the candy, then we're going to look at that 30-year-old and say, your executive consciousness should be able to keep that kid under wraps. Mm-hmm. You should be able to control that person. And so I think that in the song, that's still true. That's not being denied, but it looks like this guy spent so much time going back and forth simulating who he is.
Yeah, that he couldn't really find out.
That he doesn't really know who he is as a person.
Yeah. I think also sin does that to you. It kind of strips you of who you are because you get wrapped up in just what you're doing and you become an action rather than a person. You know?
That's deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about that with you become more of an action than a person. And then with physicalism, I mean, physicalism really, just whittles you down to a mechanistic actor. And I mean actor in the sense of like just pure action. Mm-hmm. So like none of the choices that you make are operating from
guys, we are going to do actually one more song after this. So I think people think that the stream is over, but we actually have one more song review after. So I just wanted people to know. Yeah,
like you're going to make decisions. But the issue is why you make decisions. And so, like, there are different narratives as to why you make decisions. But if physicalism is true and materialism is true, then the only reason you've ever made a decision is the selection pressures around you. And the principle of life, which is a non-personal principle in you, is influencing you and convincing you to make certain decisions that will promote just the bare DNA profile of Homo sapiens. So all of your choices have nothing to do with your free will or fate or you and your girlfriend were meant to be. No, it's just the life principle in her and the life principle in you pushed each other to each other so that you could replicate because life will find a way. That's it. End of story. That's the sum total of all of the reasons why you do what you do. And I mean, if that's the case, then you can't say that Hitler's a bad guy for doing what he did, because really it's just a form of natural selection. And for whatever reason, those people that got exterminated, that was just nature self-correcting, and there's no real way to argue against that. And so, like, when you're looking here, it's like you're talking about the similar self. Mm-hmm. I think what the author seems to be struggling with the concept of the self and the ego itself. because there's a lot of people now waking up to the idea that if we take this view of the world to its logical conclusion, then we're in a lot of trouble as far as the assumptions that we have about human beings, human value, morality, whatever you want to call it. And I don't think that there's a response. And what's interesting is there's no solve in the song. By the end of the song, he just ends up saying, yeah, I don't really know myself, because he's sending a message to himself and saying, like, you're going to take orders from me, I'm not going to take orders from you, which is very, very interesting, because in Christianity, you have categories for all those things. That's the reason that we do fasting, because we recognize that there's some desire that's in competition with another desire, and that at some level, you are responsible to tell one aspect or one consciousness of yourself, no, I'm not listening to you, you're actually going to listen to me. So that was fascinating, because like, if you don't have a developed understanding that we are divided personas, then things like that sound like crazy talk. Like, this person's talking to themselves. I'm like, I'm not sure that they're talking to themselves. We assume that there is only one singular consciousness within a person, because a lot of our materialist friends have the assumption, this is not proven, this is an assumption and a bad one, that the brain and the mind are the same thing. And so because you only have one brain, they think you only have one mind. Because they mistakenly believe that the brain is a mind-generating tool, when in reality, the brain is an antenna. What if consciousness was so broad and expansive that it was necessary for there to be an antenna to attenuate and focus an individual consciousness so that you could have a self? If you didn't have some form of taking consciousness and individuating it, then you wouldn't be able to tell at a fundamental level the difference between you and another person, or you and this chair. So the brain does not function to generate consciousness. Your individual brain functions to take your consciousness profile and individuate it so that you can tell the difference, so that you can function in the physical world. That's a completely separate idea than just saying that your brain is there and that's what generates consciousness, and that's why, you know, when you're unconscious you're not thinking, which is also untrue, because when you're unconscious people dream. So you literally have people unconscious, yet they're conscious at some other level somewhere. And we know that they're conscious somewhere because they can recount what the dream was, and you need consciousness for memory. And so we have terms like subconscious and all these other things which just talk about the fact that even if you say, because subconscious is again the idea, well, there's one consciousness, but then one of them is like your regular one, like the above ground one, and then the other one is underground, and then the underground waits until you go to sleep and you're defenseless, and then it comes in with all these ideas which you call dreams, right?
Crazy,
like, so everybody believes. It's interesting because when Freud first like posited the idea of subconscious, he was mocked. He was mocked incessantly, because obviously what I'm saying is ridiculous. There's a part of your mind that is at war with the other part of your mind, and it wants to say something to you, whoever you are now, but the conscious mind doesn't want to hear it, so it suppresses that, and for some reason the conscious mind is stronger than the subconscious mind, but then the subconscious mind says, okay, well, you're gonna have to sleep at some point, Mr. Conscious Person. And so it's sitting there with all this logic, and then lying in wait, and then waiting, and then communicating, and you have no means of defending yourself against your own mind. Of course people laughed at him. Now we take the subconscious to be real, and all I'm saying is, well, if you believe in a conscious subconscious division, that is two, no matter how you try to spin it, and they have different agendas, and they appear to be aware of each other, and you, the best you could do is observe it, apparently. I mean, this is right.
That's what they're saying.
Right? Because there is that sort of dichotomy. And so I just think that it's songs like this are important. And I also like the micro notes thing, because all of us have heard thousands, maybe we've probably heard millions of notes and progressions in a Western scale. and all this extra micro notes and all the just the way that it was supposed to be disjointed makes you kind of focus on the lyrics a little bit more because it just seems so unfamiliar. But yeah, that it's a very, very good, very interesting song that generates a lot of discussions.
Okay,
I think a weird thing is when you dream in third person, that means your brain is treating yourself as a separate from itself. Correct. Right. And there is no proof that your mind and your brain are identical. There's zero. That's a faith claim. That's an assumption. And the human family, for the most part, has never really believed that as far as the consensus goes. But yeah, looking into consciousness and the assumptions that we have about it, like the time period we're in is massively, it's so interesting because you're now getting scientific validation of things that our ancestors and our forefathers have been saying from the jump.
Yeah.
And so I think that is really, really fascinating. The song to me was one of the most unique songs I've heard in the year. Obviously, it's 2025, so it's at the beginning. But it was extremely unique. It's my favorite song of the night.
Oh.
It's a 9.5.
It's a solid 9 for me.
Ben Webb at times dreams in the third person when he dreams. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, I've just been super excited to do this song since I found out we were going to be doing it. So I might be rushing us to the next review.
Okay. Yeah, no, Ben Webb dreams in the third person.
Allegedly.
You dream in the third person too. You've dreamt in the third person too, haven't you?
Yeah, but that's pretty rare.
What's it like when you... Do you know because you're a lucid dreamer.
Yeah, but again, that's been pretty rare recently. It's been pretty rare.
What, lucid dreaming has been rare for you? Mm-hmm. Interesting, like since a month ago? Pretty much? That's what do you call it? The trade-off?
I guess.
Are you good with it or not?
Well, I know I can get it back. I know I can get
Gotcha.
it back, but I think that right now my subconscious is trying to tell me too many things when I sleep. So I think my subconscious is like, hey,
it's overreactive.
You can't dictate what's going on. We have things to talk about. Like the subconscious is wanting to. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So the subconscious is not going to let you steer the boat if it has some stuff to say. Okay, can we do this review? Do it.
Yeah.
Tell me when I can start.
We're gonna do it, but I'm gonna download it first. All right, guys, we have a bonus song for you.
Okay, you guys, this was so we have a tier on Patreon where you can get an individual song reaction. We just happened to put this one on the end of this Patreon stream. And, you know, the big homie knows that we are doing it right now, but that's not always a guarantee that you'll know exactly when it's going to be. You might. If it's important to you, then say it to us. Who knows what will happen. Okay, so Robbie says, I just wanted to say I love the channel. I've been watching every video from the beginning. It's a lot, but I love it. Also, I'd like to thank you both for inspiring me through Christ to reconnect with Christ. And then he said, here is the sweet jam to react to. So shout out to you, Robbie. And I mean, that's an honor for us. That's a big
honor for us. Are you kidding
me?
Me?
We were able to be a part of that process with you. So so here's to you. And did you get the song?
Yeah, I've got the song now. Well,
okay.
You wait till you hear the bing. And then once you hear the bing, then we're good to go. Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to be... There it is. We are going to be doing Confessions of a Traitor. Punishing Myself Before God Does. Ever since I saw this title, I have been wanting to hear it. Okay.
What's it called? Punishing Myself Before God Does?
Confessions of a Traitor is the name. And then Punishing Myself Before God Does.
All right.
I'm going to take that timestamp. 139.
Just do 140 because you're at 139.46.
Okay.
So 140 should do it. All right, here we go. Confessions of a Traitor official music video. Let's go. Show the sucky song, says Nelson. Lyrics.
Yep. Wow. Okay.
Clearway Media.
All right, you guys, that was Punishing Myself Before God Does by Confessions of a Traitor. Wow. Definitely this person has some biblical background, that's for sure, huh?
Why?
Well, I mean, the language that's used, we're talking about redemption, God, forgiveness. He says, he kind of keeps repeating, would you call my name or cast me to the flame? And I think that's that sort of like
They're a metalcore Christian band, says Necromasochist 69. Interesting name.
That's, I think that's him.
That's him?
Yeah.
All right, Necromasochist 69.
Pretty sure that's him.
Good to see you, buddy. All right, go.
Yeah, so you kind of had that imagery in there. Like that sort of biblical stuff in there. But yeah, I mean, the person sounds like it's interesting because they kind of come to the same conclusion that a lot of people do. Like, people will feel bad about the things that they've done. And so they want to, I mean, that's the self-flagellation. Is that what they call it? People, beating themselves with whips or whatever to try to, or, doing enough good to outweigh their bad. But there's no end to the depth of darkness that's inside of a soul, apart from God shining his light in there. So redemption, he said, is not about survival. It's one lost soul's revival. Would you call my name or cast me to the flame? And then he repeats that again. He said, it's like a story that plays in the back of my head. Nowhere to hide, so face it instead. A voice screaming louder when you push it aside. Nowhere to run, so look inside. And I think that this is a person describing, like, David said that basically I'm talking about David from the book of Psalms. He basically was talking about sin and its effect that it was having on it. It was like rotting him in his bones, he was talking about. And this person, is kind of like describing it as like there's this story that keeps playing in the back of his head. And maybe it's the stuff that he's done to other people. Maybe it's the stuff that was done to him. But I think but he said it's a voice screaming louder when you push it aside. And I think that feeling is a scary feeling because there's this constant voice that you can't silence, while at the same time it's a gift because the thing that keeps coming back to you is basically it's your soul's way, and I believe it's God's way of dealing with a certain thing, because one thing that I noticed is that people love to talk about, or at least some people love to talk about, the horrible things that they went through, and they never want to get the healing to grow past those things. Like, everything that we face and all of the pain that we have is meant to show us something of God. We are going to get a deeper understanding of God when we look at the details of the thing and we allow for whatever it is that he's showing us through it to come through. But sometimes, it's too difficult, and we hide our face from stuff, and
our culture is very interesting in the way that it handles guilt.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's actually pretty schizophrenic, and it shows what happens when you have a bunch of people who decide that everything that our ancestors and that our fathers said was rooted in their ignorance, and we're post-enlightenment Homo sapiens and we know science, so we now have all of this accumulated knowledge. So the silly ways in which our forefathers and our ancestors did stuff, we need to modernize from. And so what ends up happening is you're starting to build a plane 30,000 feet into the air. Because on the one hand, our culture doesn't want anybody to feel guilty about anything. Mm-hmm. Because guilt is by definition a bad emotion. And our culture believes that if you have a bad emotion about anything, you need to get away from that bad feeling immediately. Because we're a feelings-based culture instead of a principle-based culture. Mm-hmm. And so anytime you feel bad, that's bad. And anybody who makes you feel bad is even worse. And so they'll say, Christianity is bad. They make you feel guilty all the time. It's very, very fascinating. Because what ends up happening is that you can take away the concept of guilt, but you can't take away the concept of sin. Mm-hmm. And people still sin. And so what ends up happening is people think that cancel culture is a political issue, when in reality, cancel culture is a theological issue. What is cancel culture? You did something to hurt me, or hurt this group of people, So now we're going to punish you by not giving you a space in the public sphere. Now everybody's going to turn away from you. Now everybody's going to excise you from the group, okay? And then you, in response to this, have to apologize publicly. You have to say, whatever you say or do about me, I deserve because I'm such a horrible person. And eventually, after you've received enough stripes from the community or the collection, then you're able to come back in and go on with it. That's called atonement. That's what atonement is. It's a price that you pay in order to right a wrong. That's atonement. And so it's like, okay, we're going to reject Christianity because Christianity traffics on guilt. Oh, what's the main symbol of Christianity? Oh, it's a cross. Well, it's a cross. Well, Jesus died on the cross. Why did Jesus die on the cross? Well, because he had to pay for our sin. There it is right there. Religious people always trying to make you feel guilty. Da, 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 da. I am a good person, yada, yada, yada. We don't need any of that Christianity garbage. We don't need repentance. We don't need any of that stuff. We could just be good people. We don't need a book to tell us to be good people. We could just be good people ourselves. Right. Okay, so now we don't have a book to tell us to be good people. And the fact is, good is a relative term. I can define good the way I want. You can define good the way you want, right? But then if my definition of good means that only men and women should be married, now that's bad. So even though we don't believe there's an objective good, if you hold on to a certain definition of good, that's bad. We're going to put phobic or ist after you. And if we put phobic and ist on you, that functions like a modern scarlet letter that you have to walk around with until you've done enough mea culpas to earn that off you, so then you can get back into the collective, whereby you will now judge people with the same scarlet letter twice as bad as the people that were judging you. So we still have religion in our culture, in our country. We have sin, righteousness, repentance, and atonement. We have all of those ideas that came from Christianity, right? Particularly the atonement piece. We have all those ideas. We're going to reject them, take God out of all of them, make ourselves God because we're determining what the hurtful thing that you can and can't say. You can't say this about white people. You cannot say this about black people. You can't say this about men. You cannot say this about women. You can't say this about heterosexuals. You cannot say this about homosexuals. So there's an entire group. There's an entire 10 Commandments. There's an entire theology. It has everything. It has all the trappings of religion without being religious, etc. And you have sacred cows, just like religious people have sacred cows. There's whole groups of people you can't touch, groups of people you can't criticize, because those are sacred cows. So it's very fascinating the way that our culture relates to guilt, because on the one hand, our culture is like completely permissive in principle, but in application, it's extremely religious in the way that we go after people. Who gets gone after. There's some people who can never redeem themselves. Yeah. Donald Trump can never redeem himself. Doesn't matter what he does. Doesn't matter what he says. Okay? People are going to go crazy. Joe Biden was here for a year for the whole Israel-Palestine thing. Nothing happened. The worst crime that Joe Biden committed was not the fact that he couldn't help any of those Palestinians. The worst crime he committed to these people is that he stayed in too long and made it so that Kamala lost. But Kamala losing put Trump back in power, and then Trump used the weight of his power to influence these people to stop killing these Palestinians. We can't celebrate that because Donald Trump and anybody who says anything positive about him have been officially excommunicated from
the collective.
The collective of decent people. And so if you want to be part of our decent group, then you cannot celebrate the fact that these Palestinians are celebrating in the streets right now. You can't. So the Palestinians are dancing in the street, saying Allahu Akbar. But we've got certain people in our country right now who are angry that happened. And so like it's so fascinating. But then the person who is happy with Trump winning, they're a racist, right? And a fascist and horrible, and you're a good person, even though you've got your arms crossed and the Palestinians are dancing in the streets, and nobody sees a contradiction. I'm not taking anybody's side. I'm just talking about the schizophrenic nature of a group of people who are massively religious, massively litigious, massively law-oriented, who believe that they're not. It's mind-boggling to me that, like, we're not seeing it. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And so like, it's true. Like, at the end of the day, if you don't accept God's forgiveness, good luck. Good luck with secular worldly forgiveness.
Yeah, he said, God may forgive me, but I won't. I
Right.
refuse to play pretend.
Right. And that's the thing is that I'm listening, like, for example, Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth is I don't know him personally, but he apparently led a very terrible life before meeting Jesus. And so they bring him up there and they say, you're not qualified because of this, and that. And he said, yeah, like, he's like, but Jesus met me and he's radically saved me, and I've got a wife that stuck with me even though she shouldn't have. She's sitting there right behind me. And it was so fascinating watching the response of secularists. They're like, oh, here we go with the Jesus. So you could do all this horrible shit, and because Jesus died for you, you're just supposed to be able to move on. Yes. 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 That's the message. But it's just fascinating because it's like, no, we want to judge this guy. He already said he was wrong. He said nothing to defend it. I was wrong. And she should have left me. And she stayed with me. And I'm just grateful to God and Jesus and her for forgiving me. They were offended. They were upset.
That's so wild.
And it's like, this whole thing with judgmentalism is not... I used to think that judgmentalism was a Christian sport. I used to think only Christians are judgmental hypocrites who hate a Jesus who will forgive a guy like Pete Hegseth. I was wrong. This is humanity. The people... You got people today who believe that they're liberal and all this, and they're some of the most judgmental, legalistic, bitter, angry, and they get so angry when Jesus' name gets invoked. And they're like, this guy could have been Mother Teresa all his life, and this guy could have been a serial killer who ate people, but because he said a few words to Jesus, he goes to heaven forever. Yes! Yes, that's the message. Christ Jesus died to save sinners, of which I am the worst. Okay? Now, I will say to you that sin works very much like entropy, and the idea that you could give God the finger and then in the last 10 minutes of your life that your heart is all of a sudden going to be changed to be open to that are very slim. I have read the accounts of the death of the wicked, where people were like, yo, I'm in hell, blah, blah, blah. And the people with the guy are saying, well, just repent, man. What the hell is wrong? Just repent. And the guy says, I can't. I'm in hell. They're taking me down. Help me, doc. And the doctor's like, just repent, man. The doctor wasn't even religious, but he was so troubled by how terrified this guy was that he was like, damn it, just repent. Pray, do something, throw something at the wall. So, yes, deathbed conversions happen, but you banking on you being able to have a deathbed convention is literally like taking out a balance of like $10 million and saying, I'll win the lottery at some point, because I read a story. Like, if you have any part of your spirit left after an entire life of rebellion against God, if there's any part of your heart that's open to God, you better do it now. Because a lot of people will tell you, oh, as long as you're still alive, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. Hebrews talks about people who could not find repentance. There are people that cross the line in this life of no return. There's some people that Jesus looked at and said, it'd be better if you were never born. Gentle Jesus, meek and mild would say that. So, it's unbelievable. All of us, one of my famous friends said this and never left me. He said it's like people are addicted to judgment.
Yeah.
And we're very good at calling out judgmental people. We're very good at finger pointers. we're not good at calling out the worst judgmental person that we know, which is ourself after ourself. Mm-hmm. Just like it's horrible to judge another person and pile on them for their mistakes, especially if they know they make a mistake, it is just as horrible to do that to yourself. Because you're a person too.
You know, in some ways it's almost worse because you live in yourself. It's kind of a weird way of putting it, but like you're the only person you can't get separated from because you're yourself.
Yeah.
So if you're using that sort of negative language or whatever toward yourself, like that's the environment that you're, I mean, you can't take a cucumber and put it in vinegar and spices and expect it not to turn to a pickle.
Right.
Like it's going to change. And whatever condition you're giving your soul to marinate in, and that's the thoughts that we think about, it's whatever the internal life that we're living that nobody else knows about. That environment that you're creating for yourself, you know, some people, like that one person, couldn't even, like, yeah, you said, they got to the end of their life and they couldn't even, you know, find it in themselves to even repent. But, I mean, the other side of it is, like, it would be like, you know, everybody sees that story of the bride that gets hit on her wedding day as a tragedy. You know, like, she has love and then she dies and they don't even end up getting married, or they were just barely married. Everybody sees that as a tragedy, and it would be the same that you went through this life and you suffered through this life and you never got to experience what it is like to have a dark night of the soul and have the shepherd of your soul come through for you. And so, like, the whole, like, you know, she never got to live out marriage life. It's so sad for the bride that dies on her wedding day. Like, it would be a much bigger sorrowful experience for the person who makes it to the end of their life and has a deathbed experience. So, like, yeah, you're going to go where God is, but you just spent the last chunk of your experience suffering without knowing him in the different situations, that because everybody's going to go through something. You're going to go through a bunch of stuff in your life, and you either have him there to walk you through it or you don't. But yeah, so crazy. But
that's deep. That, like, I've said this before. I don't say it a lot, but like, I feel so terrible for people who've never been rebuked by Jesus.
Oh.
Because it's one of the best feelings ever. Mm-hmm. And like, it's so hard to explain. It's like
I have a funny analogy for it.
You are better than this.
Mm-hmm.
I did not die for you to treat this person like this, but you're completely loved unconditionally, and you're being called into something greater. Mm-hmm. It's not you horrible, terrible, worthless, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. That's how I talk. That's how I talk to me, because I'm not a very good person to myself. But when Jesus shows up, he can be mad. Jesus has never been mad at me. He's always been mad for me. Mm. And that's the difference. You know, God gets mad at his people, but he's mad for us because he wants good for us more than we want good for us. Mm-hmm. And so when he gets God, I make God mad a lot, pretty much every day, but he's always mad for me. And that's the difference. Where it talks about there's now therefore no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus. So, like, there's the only being in the universe who could justly condemn you has none. Mm-hmm. Says there is no. Doesn't say like there's degraded. Doesn't say that there's watered down condemnation.
If God is for us, who can be against us?
None. And he's for me. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then when he's mad at me and Jesus calls my name and says, "Hey!" Because he does, like, he's mad for me and he's chasing me down. Mm-hmm. And I resist a lot, but he's relentless. I told somebody one time, I said, man, you know, I debate people all the time. I have no problem debating, blah, blah, blah. And I said, but If God wants to have you, he's going to have you. And people, blah, 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 blah. 6 months later, dude is professing Christ. Like, and he's like hardcore. Like, it's the only thing that I think about. Like, why don't you have these conversations with my friends? Because if you had one discussion with them, it would be over. It'd be over. But yeah. The self-forgiveness thing is a big thing. And I wish a lot more Christians and religious people harped on it. Because just like we're not supposed to judge our neighbor, you shouldn't judge yourself either. That all your judgment has occurred on the cross already. So, and what I have found is that the people who are very judgy about themselves, and a lot of people like, I'm going to judge myself so that I can like stay on the straight and narrow. They don't stay on the straight and narrow. What ends up happening is they get so exhausted that they end up being cold and bitter and horrible, or, and this usually happens simultaneously, they become extremely judgmental people because they don't let themselves off the hook for anything. They are definitely not going to let you off the hook for anything. So they're the most bitter, miserable people that can never forgive anybody, and they're always upset. You can depend on it. If a person never can forgive anybody and they're always judging other people, they can never say, oh, well, I'm like that too. It's because they're pointing the finger at themselves. They're being absolutely horrible to themselves. Sometimes it's one of the reasons why, I'll be going back and forth with a troll and Jesus will be like, do not send that. Do not send that. I'm like, did you know what he said to me? I'm like, yep, do not send that. I know things you don't know. Shut up. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. And there are some times when I listen. And there are times when I don't listen, and he's like, you have no idea what you just did.
Yep.
Like,
That's last night, I had a message typed out. It was so friggin' funny. It was perfect for the moment. But I felt like God was like, is that building people up? I mean, it was kind of one of those neutral ones, but definitely funny. So but no, I just deleted it. I was like, yeah, for what? I don't know what the outpouring or what's going to come as a result of my message. So if you put a comment out there, or we put a comment out there, and then somebody's day takes a turn because they read the comment and now they're more agitated, and because they're more agitated they treat people worse, and then people treat them worse, and then the kids get yelled at because you know what I'm saying? Like, you just did a whole lot in somebody's family because of a comment. And like, yeah, you could look at it and then say, oh, people shouldn't be so weak to let their entire day get moved over a comment. But you know what? We've all had days where we were moved by things, we stubbed our baby toe, and you just blow a gasket. So, we don't know where everybody's at, but we all know that everybody goes through stuff. So, yeah.
And so what? If the person's weak, that makes you worse. Like, why are you picking on a weak person? Then if they're weak, don't pick on them if they're weak, right? Yeah. Applejack said he reserves the right to judge himself, but who gave you the right to judge yourself, though? You're assuming that you have the right to judge yourself. I don't have the right to judge myself. You know why I don't have the right to judge myself? Because I don't know myself perfectly. Paul said, people were accusing Paul of stuff, and he goes, listen, I have nothing in my conscience, but that doesn't make me guiltless. I'll leave that for the Lord to decide. So I don't even judge myself, because people don't realize judging doesn't necessarily mean you're a horrible person. I'm a good person is also a judgment. Right? If somebody's in a bad situation and you give them a few dollars to get out of a jam, they're going to tell you, oh, I'm a good person. And now you can receive that if you want, but I don't know why I gave you that money. Right? Like Jesus said, hey, if you give so that other people can thank you and make a big deal out of you, you've already received your reward. So that person, when they tell me, oh, you're a good person, what they're saying is, you made me feel good by doing this. So therefore, you must be good. My thought process is, No, God is good.
Yeah.
And he used me as a vehicle.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean the vehicle that the president came in is a good vehicle.
No, it just means image and likeness. Remember we said you're made in the image and likeness of God, so
Right? So
you carry some of the glory.
So I don't even reserve the right to judge myself. I just leave all the judgments to God. If you judge yourself, you're going to fall into either pride or despair. You're going to be either too good or too bad. It's the last person on the planet who should be judging me is me, because I am a biased observer in either direction. And the cool thing is God is biased too. God never says, hey, I'm neutral. The scripture says God is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and rich in love. He is good to all. He has compassion for all he has made. So God's default is to forgive me. God's default is to find some good reason for why I did what I did. God's default is to look for the 2% of good in the action that I did and ignore the 98% of self-motivation. So I'm just going to leave the judgment into God's hand. That's what David said. I'm just going to I'll just let God be my judge. And that's terrifying for some and comforting to others. And the difference between both of those is Jesus. If Jesus is your brother, then when God judges you, you should be happy. You should look forward to the meeting. If Jesus is not your brother, he's going to cut your throat on the last day and throw you into the lake of fire. That's what it says in the Bible. All right, well, on that positive note, this is a 9.5 for me.
This is a 9.2 for me. Shout out to Robbie who brought this song to us. He said he's probably going to be our resident Christian metalhead. He's pushing us a Christian song for a little while. So yeah, shout out to you guys. Thanks for coming through. We got a lot of streams this week, so be on the lookout for that. Don't forget the list is up on Patreon if you want to see. I'm
gonna send this to Brian. Look at this. Korn is my favorite Christian band. I'm gonna send it to him right now. Hey! All right. What'd you give it?
9.2, I think, is what I gave it.
I'm gonna give it a solid 9.
I thought you gave it a 9.4.
I have the right to judge myself because only I know what. I don't think that you know why you've done what you. He also judges the why. When I say I don't judge myself, I'm not talking about the what. I know, hey, you slapped that guy in the face. You shouldn't have done that. I know that action was wrong. Why I did that, the 8 million counterfactuals that led up to that moment as to why I did it, I do not know. And that is a part of myself I do not judge. So I can judge the action as whether it's good or bad, but me personally as to why I did it, I cannot judge because I don't know. Good question, those. Good question. Have a good night, North Americans. We're having the best times as we possibly can, considering the situation.